Hello and welcome to the conversation. Hey, this is the eGathering podcast. This here is Rick Coop, and I am Todd Brown. And every week we get together and we have a conversation. We just discuss matters of our religion mostly, matters of our faith, of our life. And we have been on this kick where we're talking about parables, parables that Jesus told. So if you go back and look, you can find an episode that's called Why Parables. And so we won't cover a lot about why parables, but we're talking about the specific parables. This week we're talking about
the parable of the 10 virgins.
The parable of the 10 virgins. Jesus tells this parable in Matthew. We hear it in Matthew. And it is Matthew 25, 1 through 13. It's in a string of parables.
Right.
Yeah. So.
And all of them kind of similar a little bit.
Same concept.
Yeah, it's telling us about being ready, the kingdom, things like that.
Yeah.
I found something that was kind of interesting. It was written by a guy, to give a little background about the weddings of this time and traditions.
Yeah.
This guy named D.A. Carson, this was in the Expositor's Bible Commentary, which I've heard of before. I don't have that one in particular. But it describes the setting this way. Normally, the bridegroom, with some close friends, left his home to go to the bride's home, where there were various ceremonies, followed by a procession through the streets, or after nightfall to his home. The 10 virgins may be bridesmaids who have been assisting the bride, and they expect to meet the groom as he comes from the bride's house. Everyone in the procession was expected to carry his or her own torch, and those without a torch would be assumed to be a party crasher, or even a bandit or a thief who had come to steal things from the party. I thought that was kind of interesting when I looked at it. It kind of lets you know the importance of having the lamp lit from the story.
You get the idea from reading about historically how this went down, that it was kind of like the groom and his buddies, bachelor party, would have an evening and be together and enjoying themselves, and then the bride and the bridesmaids and her folks would be together enjoying themselves, having a good time. But then what I gathered was that the bridesmaids, or the virgins, the 10 virgins, would bring him in. They would meet him outside and bring him into their party, like bringing them into the presence of the bride and the things that are going on there. I found it interesting that there was a reference to this concept in Ruth, where Boaz, Ruth 4:2, Boaz was attended by 10 witnesses that brought him in. And so kind of just says, it's just the way they did it. So for us, we're like, so there's 10 virgins waiting on this dude to come. What are they trying to be his bride, or what is the? So like you, for me, it helps to research the concept. So it doesn't fit our culture at all,
right?
And they're not waiting to get married to him.
No,
they are waiting to be a part of what he has
the
going
celebration.
on.
For the bride herself, the true bride, I guess.
So let me read the scripture so that people who are at home who haven't got it. So if you want to read along, it's Matthew 25, 1 through 13. And it says, At that time, the kingdom of heaven will be like 10 virgins who took their lamps and went out to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were foolish and 5 were wise. The foolish ones took their lamps, but did not take any oil with them. The wise ones, however, took oil in jars along with their lamps. The bridegroom was a long time in coming, and they all became drowsy and fell asleep. At midnight, the cry rang out, "Here is the bridegroom. Come out and meet him." All of the virgins woke up and trimmed their lamps. The foolish ones said to the wise, 'Give us some of your oil. Our lamps are going out.' 'No,' they replied, 'there may not be enough for both us and you. Instead, go to those who sell oil and buy some for yourselves.' But while they were on their way to buy oil, the bridegroom arrived. The virgins who were ready went in with him to the wedding banquet, and the door was shut. Later, the others also came. 'Lord, Lord,' they said, 'open the door for us.' But he replied, 'Truly I tell you, I don't know you. Therefore, keep watch, because you do not know the day or the hour.'" And so I'm glad we walked through that before, because by going through that before, as you read it, you go, oh, I see the connection, why they would have gone through the stuff that they went through. If they would have been standing there with lamps that weren't lit, and it's funny how in our culture we get flustered with people who are so worried about culture and steps you take, and to these guys, the steps meant everything.
Yeah, because every step was a part of the total celebration. I was having a conversation with somebody earlier this week about some of the things that we've lost. Part of this goes back to last Sunday with Sunday school. We've lost some of the I'm going to use this term. I know for some people it could be a bit of a stumbling block, but we've lost some of the mysticism. We've lost some of the ceremony. We've lost some of the we're in a society today where it's just like, okay, boom, 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 out of here.
Yeah.
Do this, do this, do this. Good. We're done. We're out. And we've lost some of the celebration, and we've lost some of the meaningfulness of certain things.
Yeah.
And it's a shame that in our society today that we've lost some of that. Some of the another thing we were talking about this week was Mary and I like to go on cruises, as you know. And we still enjoy the get dressed up. Every night's a date night, Get dressed up, go to the main dining area, have a nice meal, be dressed up, talk to each other, don't have cell phones out, just have a nice meal. It's part of a whole dating thing. Yeah. Where there's other folks today that they just, they want to walk in with a pair of shorts and a t-shirt, similar, dress today. I'm kind of like to each his own, but we like the pomp and splendor of it. It's special to us. But
we have taken, we enjoy telling people how their pomp and circumstance, how their specialness isn't special, but that this other group of people is special. And so it's weird. It's weird how we have our little things, but yeah. Something else that we've lost, that people don't like, kind of turns people off. They immediately bristle at otherness, like the otherness of God. Yeah. And when I say the otherness of God, I mean the completely outside of our grasp and understanding. When we start talking about spiritual things, as soon as you start talking about spiritual things, people get weirded out. And so, yeah. When we look at what Jesus is doing here, we say it's in a chain of parables, in a chain of different stories. He really is getting, I hate to do it this way, but it's kind of, have you ever watched a movie and you see that the movie was a 2-hour movie and we're an hour and 45 minutes into it, and so you kind of go, oh, I know what's going to happen because there's only 15 minutes left. Yeah. So we're gonna land this plane. If you're watching a Star Trek movie, you know that Spock and Captain Kirk are going to be okay, and we know the stuff that's coming.
And if not, Spock will come back.
Spock will come back. Yeah, it's still going to be okay. Yeah. But we're at Matthew 25.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of chapters left.
Yeah.
So it's a weird way of getting to it. But the point is, Jesus is preparing his followers to take the reins on this ministry. Yep. You are going to be in charge of this earthly ministry. You are going to be the one who deals with these things. And I am coming back. Mm-hmm. And so he has gone through... he's gone through talking about the fact that the earthly temple isn't going to be there anymore. It's going to be destroyed. He's talked about the fact that the power that Israel has in the region is going to be gone. Mm-hmm. And he's said this all in these cloaked ways in other parables and ways of coming at it. But, I mean, he literally looks over and says, see that temple, it's not going to be anymore. Yeah. And then he goes through... he just goes through what we know on this side of the resurrection, that in 37 years, 38 years, give or take, that Jerusalem is going to be flattened, and by the Romans, and everybody's going to die. And he gives them warnings about when you see these things, you need to get yourself ready. Yeah. But he also talks about his returning. Yeah.
Well, like in Matthew 24, which is a precursor, he talks about the signs of the times and the end times. Yeah. Matthew 24:15, he starts talking about the Great Tribulation. Then he talks about the second coming in Matthew 24:29 through 31. Yeah. Then he talks about nobody knows the day or the hour in Matthew 24:34 through 44. Then in Matthew 25, he starts talking about more things and, opening up more doors. And it's all kind of, he like you said, he's trying to prepare them and say, watch for these things. This is what's going to happen. The temple that you hold so dear isn't going to be here, just a lot of stuff to say, hey, be prepared, be ready.
Be ready. Yeah. And so when we get to these parables that we're coming down through, it's a be ready parable.
Yeah.
It's if somebody told you, I'm going to come over and things are going to be awesome when I get there, when are you coming? I can't tell you, but you're going to need these 10 things.
Yeah.
Well, and then it's been 3 years, and then it's been 100 years, and then it's been 1,000 years.
No, I know where you're going.
You might take 5 or 6 of those things and just put them back on the shelf. At some point, you go, okay, well, I'll pick those back up if I need it. But he's not only warning them, but he's warning us. Mm-hmm. Don't get lazy.
Right.
Don't. And there are other parables that tell the same concept. There's the concept of the slave who's been put in charge of the farm while the master is gone, and Jesus says, if the master isn't going to tell him when he's coming back, because if he tells them when he's coming back, then they'll just be lazy all the way up until the day before he's going to come back, and then they'll just do everything. But if the master comes in and you're sitting at the table not doing your job, it's going to be tough. It's going to get ugly. It's that whole...
Oh, I agree. I wrote down, could it possibly be that the oil that keeps us going is not only our faith, but our reading of the Word and our carrying out the commandments and the loving our neighbors? In other words, the parable of the sheep and goats is like taking care of the hurting, the starving, the cold, the lonely, and the captive. That's the oil. That's the thing that keeps us going and ready for Him when He returns. And that harkens back to another scripture, when did you feed, that we're going to be talking about that at some point.
Yeah.
When did you feed me? When did you clothe me? Things like that. So it's kind of like, for me, the things that He asks us to do as his people, as his children, is the oil that keeps the gears moving and keeps us ready and keeps the fire lit.
Yeah.
When we start not doing those things, maybe we stop reading as much, stop praying as much, stop, it's just, then the fire starts going out.
Yeah.
And
people can see that on you.
Right.
They don't.
Right.
And again, we go back, that goes so deep into what he's talking about. People don't recognize you as belonging to him anymore because that's not what comes out of you. Mm-hmm. That's not what shines from you. So,
right.
There's this idea of you don't have light. But Jesus has told his disciples to this point, you are the light of the world. I am the light that no one that shines out of the darkness.
Exactly,
I am the light. And so if you don't keep your oil,
if you don't shine,
if you're not
stay lit,
if you're not staying in Scripture, if you're not staying with other brothers and sisters who are in Christ, if you aren't staying a part of what's going on in the faith, if you're not feeding, healing, loving on people, then you don't shine. Mm-hmm. Your oil, I love that analogy of, is the oil like the doing of the things that Jesus asks us to do? It is, without that light or without that oil, you don't shine. People don't recognize you as a part of what's going on with Christ. Mm-hmm. You're just another dude. Yep. You're just a part of this world. You're no different than anything else that's a part of this world.
To go on with that, it says that talk, Rick, Matthew 25:10, but while they were gone to buy oil, it seems that not only had they grown tired and abandoned their watch, but they actually, when the time actually came for the bridegroom to arrive, they were distracted and off running around, running errands. Mm-hmm. They were doing other things that they should have already been prepared for. They lost interest. People are fickle. They get indecisive or inconsistent or erratic with their daily lives as well as with their faith. And Jesus wanted us to be ready and not to waver. In verse 13 he says, so you too must keep watch, for you do not know the day or the hour of my return. Mm-hmm. So not only do we need to keep those things going to keep us lit, for lack of a better term, but if we don't do those things, then we start getting distracted by other things. And when we're supposed to be watching for him, there might be a day or an hour where he returns and we're too busy focusing on other things. Do you think it's interesting that this whole section of parables, some call it the Olivet Discourse, because he's on the Mount of Olives. Mm-hmm. Do you think that he's talking a lot about his return? Do you think it's interesting that this is also the mount from which he transcended? Do you think there's a tie or not?
Yeah, I don't. They go back and back and back to this. I think that's as much to do with where they're at and what's going on. Yeah. But yeah.
Do you think two things came to me. The Mount of Olives was a meeting place, mm-hmm. For them. And people, would go there and see him speak, and that was where they gathered. So was the significance there in that that's also where, he transcended? Or was there significance because he'd been talking about all of these things and his return, and then in order for him to return, he has to go?
Yeah.
So he leaves and, they're now, okay, yeah, this was the place he told us to... I don't know that I can't say that I wouldn't have been one of the ones to go, well, there he goes. Think I'll hang out a little bit.
Just in case.
See when he comes back,
Just in case. It is interesting to me that we talk about, and I want to encourage you to go look about this. We talk about the second coming Well, really, it would be the third coming.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If he returns in the way that we believe he will, it's the third coming. Because we know, because we read the end of the book, that he comes and spends time with them. At the end of the Gospels and at the beginning of the book of Acts, he does come and spend time with them.
Yeah.
To me, I think that's really what I have as far as this is concerned. The concept is for us to be prepared. Oh, there was something that went through my head, and that was when Jesus at an earlier verse speaks about this idea of eating his flesh and drinking his blood. One of the things we talked about, I talked about with my Thursday night class and Wednesday night class was, have you ever heard somebody say, he eat, drinks, and sleeps football? He eat, drinks, and sleeps astronomy, which you enjoy doing. You enjoy doing it, but you don't eat, drink, and sleep it. It isn't what consumes you.
Yeah, right.
Okay. And I think when we talk about being prepared, that's what he's talking about. Is this what you? Is this who you are?
Point. That's a good
Is this
point.
what you do? The young ladies who came unprepared, very often we're not prepared, not because we didn't know better, but because it isn't part of what we're doing. It can be you could be somebody who enjoys going to a bowling league, and when you go to bowling league and it comes time for the league to start, the fall league's going to start, and you didn't bowl all summer, and now you're like, oh no, a week from now league starts. Well, this is too late, buddy. I mean, you're going to bowl, and that's fine, but you're not ready to do that thing. Archery season's coming up for me for hunting, and there are a ton of videos that come out in June that say it's time.
Yeah.
Even though archery season for most people doesn't start till end of September, beginning of October, depending on your state.
Right.
June is when you decide, where you determine whether your arrows are straight enough, whether you need new fletchings on them, what broadhead are you going to use this year, is your bow in tune. October, or if your season starts October 1st, September 28th is not the day to get that figured out.
Right.
You haven't shot all winter, or you haven't shot all summer, now you're going to go shoot. No.
Yeah.
So be ready.
Sure.
Yep. For the season of his coming. Oh, I read stuff like this and I often think to myself, are you ready?
Oh man, yeah, Todd. Yeah. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
In case anybody thinks as you listen to us talk that what we're doing is we're telling you suck and you need to do blah, 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 blah. Know this, every time we do one of these, we are convicted by what we just read, what we just walked through. It doesn't mean that we're not doing it. It just means, and sometimes it does, it just means that we're paying attention with you.
Yeah.
We're taking this trip with you. It is important that we go through these things. This is oil.
Yeah. Yeah.
We bought some oil.
It is.
If you're listening to this podcast, this is oil.
Right.
Even if we're wrong, this is oil. And if you spend the time to go through and go, no, I really think that blah 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 was what happened, then that's oil. You spent time, and we want to hear. And if you tell us, that's oil.
The more you pray and read and stay, and I don't mean just for you and I, because we've known each other a long time. For you and I, when we're studying, it's because of a hunger, a desire. It's not, okay, we're doing this. Okay, well, it's Bible reading time again. I'm going to read my little 10 minutes and then I can hurry up and get this done. No, when we're reading, you and I read scriptures, we're digging. You know, when we read books about scriptures, then we're digging and asking questions and wanting to know more. When we're with co-workers or friends who are Christians, you and I do it to each other. We spur each other onward, as the scriptures talks about. And like you said, that's all oil. That's the kind of things that you do when you're in your car and you're driving along and you find yourself, or walking or whatever, and you find yourself having a conversation with the Lord. It's this oil that helps keep the lamp lit.
Yeah.
You know, it's and those are the when you see somebody who needs a hand or a hug or a kind word or a handout, a sandwich, or you're serving somebody in some way. That's oil. Yeah. That's the kind of things that keeps us going.
Yeah.
Without asking for something in return. You know, just doing it.
Yeah. Okay.
That's all I got, man.
Guys, that's all. That's what we have for today. Hey, we mean sincerely that if you comment to us, that's oil. We get a lot of comments about. We get a lot of comments from folks who don't believe in God or any of it. As somebody said, I don't need an imaginary friend. Thank you. That's fine, and we will try and be kind and spend time with them. But boy, we could sure use some oil from our believer friends who have a constructive bit or an encouraging word that comes along. We really appreciate you guys spending time with us all this time. If you're still here, hit that like button or follow us or subscribe, depending on where you're following us at, because there are a lot of places that you can. We appreciate you guys spending time with us. Yep. Share this thing. If you have watched us to this point, share it so other people can join in and be a part of this. Have a great night. Bye.
Bye-bye.